I want to tell you a story about this story, and there's a real plot twist in this one, so stay with me for these few minutes. The story is usually told like this. The people building the Tower of Babel wanted to storm the gates of heaven and make themselves famous. God didn't want them muscling in on his fame and glory, so he punished them to put them in their place by confusing their languages and then scattering them far and wide. But if you read the story in the Bible, the reason they started building was to avoid being scattered. God's command to scatter and multiply and rule was first given to Adam and Eve, then repeated to Noah and his family after the flood. The truth is, the people at Babel wanted to sink down their roots, stay local, and not go anywhere. So this was why they wanted to stay put, to make a name for themselves by rejecting God's call to go. Far from reaching up to heaven, they wanted a God of convenience at their beck and call, a God who would come down to meet them at a time and place of their choosing. They wanted God to have an address and a postcode. So they built this massive, towering temple. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wanting to stick together and be good family. But God created people to fill the whole earth by spreading out. As one clever person put it, it's not holy to hide. People are supposed to live God's way everywhere, not live their own way in one place. This hunkering down and staying put is really about rejecting God's call to go and spread out and rule the whole earth in his name. It's people making a name for themselves here, in this place, not making a name for God over there and everywhere else. In the last book of the Bible, Babel, or Babylon, stands for everything that raises itself up against God's rule and authority. And get this, God doesn't punish the people by confusing their languages. He simply enables them to do what he commanded them to do. Go and scatter and spread his rule everywhere. You see, the thing is, God doesn't want unified, uniform people. In fact, God loves diversity. Now, in current UK culture, we could be forgiven for thinking diversity is bad and unity is good. And yet, although there is a kind of diversity that God doesn't want, everyone doing whatever they feel like, and there is a kind of unity that God does desire, like one people with one vision under one God, there's also a kind of unity that God doesn't want. The kind of unity where people identify strongly with a group, but not with others who are not currently in that group. This kind of unity starts everything from playground squabbles to world wars. And there is also a kind of diversity that God loves. People coming together in his name from every tongue, tribe, and nation, which is, after all, how the Bible ends. So we have two forces at work. On the one hand, follow God, spread out, do what he says, take his message out. And on the other hand, follow ourselves, stay put, do what you please, keep his message to yourself. So, to put it simply, as humans we have a simple choice. Bible or Babel? Now for the plot twist. It might blow your mind to learn that the nations that are listed immediately before the Tower of Babel story in Genesis chapter 10 are the same nations listed in Acts chapter 2. At Babel, languages are confused and people are scattered. At Pentecost, the same gospel message is spread far and wide by people from all these nations hearing the message in their own language. God's original plan for people to spread everywhere with his message is back on track. The confusion of Babel is reversed, and the people go. So what are we to make of this, and why is this important for our new build? Well, we're not to build for the wrong reason. We're not to build so we can stay put. We're not to build to avoid going. Any building we build in light of what happened at Pentecost must be a sending building, an emptying building, and not a place to hunker down. And if God's plan and his desire is for his people to scatter, taking his name and his fame to the ends of the earth, any new building is not even a place to meet God, as if we can ever tie God down to one convenient place like the people of Babel thought they could. As it says in the book of Acts, he is the Lord of heaven and earth, and he doesn't live in temples built by human hands. Instead, our new building should be a place to train and equip people in how to meet God in the everyday places where they live and move and serve him in the ordinary stuff of life, sending them out so that they can take his rule out to cover the whole town and beyond. In our hearts, we should be a sent people who are going, not staying, even if not all of us actually go. So let's focus not on what type of building we are building. Instead, let's focus on making sure we are not like the people at Babel and more like the people at Pentecost.